The Epic Store has directly led to the downgrade of a game. Activision-Blizzard are doing some potentially deeply creepy stuff, and a whole lot more. We have a lot to get into in today's episode of The Roundup. Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Roundup, the twice per week gaming news show where, basically, we get you caught up with everything you need to know, covering the industry's most interesting stories. And this week, we have a hell of a week. There are so many important issues to get into, so let's just get right into them. First, a quick note on the Elder Scrolls Blades. So, it's made 500 million from 1 million downloads. Now, that's fine. I initially saw this in Eric Kane's article that was written on the 12th of April, but the story actually broke on the 4th of April. And those numbers are from the game's first week. Yeah, that week in which many people couldn't play it because of early access. Can we garner much from this? Well, 500k is not that much money, really. Like, Risk of Rain 2 made like 10 million in revenue in a similar period of time. But of course, things are different for Blades. First, Blades' progression is such that it slows down massively over time as you start to get better chests and level up, meaning that most of the monetization push occurs after week 1. So I imagine that its audience will begin to convert higher over time. And really, the whole mobile business is super interesting. I've chatted to some publishers a year and a half ago when I was in the business floor in Gamescom, and basically I was just learning about how they view, average revenue per customer, cost per user, i.e. the ad spend needed to get a user average, and how that all ties into the genre of the game. So for the mobile industry, it's been interesting because recently getting new users has been costing more money, but average spends have been decreasing. That basically is the direction I'd like to see it in. I think consumers do feel very squeezed by that market. But for Blades, what I think is more sad is that I actually know of a mobile dungeon crawler with touch-based controls that's a fantastic game. It's called Severed. It's by the creators of Guacamelee. It's a really good game, so you know what? I'm probably going to slog through another few hours of Blades, and then I am going to have some more fun in Severed, and I'll probably then make a video that's, well, smacking Bethesda down. Okay, so this Epic Store game port downgrade. There's a game called Dangerous Driving. It is very much a spiritual successor to the Burnout franchise. And that means, scoring, right? Your score is extremely important. If you've ever played Burnout, like, you're accruing score, you're getting your rank, all of that stuff, that's how those games work. So having leaderboards between you and your friends is a pretty important feature for a game like that, at least for some of the people who will be playing it. Now, this is a game that's came out on multiple platforms, but on the PC, it is an Epic Game Store exclusive. Now, here's the thing that kinda sucks. The Epic Game Store currently just does not support a bunch of multiplayer features, including things like leaderboards. And that actually means that in a number of key ways, because of the Epic Game Store platform, the PC version objectively has less features and is worse. Now, it's not massively worse. It's not stuff that's core to the game, but I think for many users, it is important stuff. And it clearly shows that Epic, we cannot support these features that this game supports on other platforms. We're still going to get the exclusivity deal, and we are okay with the product being worse on PC. And this is a case where that product is worse on PC, objectively, because of the Epic deal. And I think that is really, really quite bad. Quite bad indeed. Essentially, Epic does not have their equivalent of Steamworks as well done. So, you can use Steamworks for a bunch of things like your leaderboards and achievements. That's another thing that isn't here. It's not massive, right? It's not killing the game. It's not like the game is significantly worse now. But it definitely is worse, and it's because of the Epic Store. That really sucks, and I mean, what do we do about it? I think basically the point here is that Epic have went in so early with such an underdeveloped product that they are okay for their short to medium-term business goals to be at the expense of customers. Yes, people would still be angry at Epic Store exclusives if the Epic Store was as well developed as Steam, but they probably wouldn't be as mad, in fairness, and it would have an objectively less detrimental effect on the games that are on that store. So there you go, that is essentially this story. There's not too much else to talk about it, but I think it is worth flagging up because this is more of a niche game that a lot of people won't know about, but I think a lot of people do care that this will have happened. So there you go, let's move on. Next, we have a rather disturbing and I think complex story, and emotions are going to run high with this one, but I think it does spark off a very interesting discussion that touches on many things. It has emerged that Activision-Blizzard have an incentive for female staff to use a pregnancy tracking app called Ovia. Now, this app covers attempting to conceive until after birth, with the upfront benefit being, I guess, the mothers get data and stuff and some incentives from Blizzard. I mean, ostensibly, the benefit's that health thing for them, but really it's quite different for Activision-Blizzard because, well, first they offer employees $1 per day for using the app. They then purchase the aggregate data from Ovia. Now, this is not personalized data that can link back to an individual employee, although with all big data, let's be real, you can often conflate multiple forms of aggregate data to kind of get an individual profile. So why do this? Well, it's pretty simple. Activision-Blizzard wants to get a better handle on the costs that maternity really incurs on their business. The data from Ovia, from their perspective, basically lets them see important trends and, in an ideal world, work their support structures to better support people through all of that. But that's a very idealistic view. This is very much something that, they're doing it obviously to save money in some way. Why? Well, let's just first talk about what Mitt Ezzard, their head of benefits, said. So he said that the reactions from staff have gone from, hey, Activision-Blizzard is big brother, to, hey, Activision-Blizzard is really bringing me tools that can help me out. He then went on to say this: each time we introduced something, there was a bit of an outcry. You're prying into our lives. It sounds silly saying it out loud, but we slowly increased the sensitivity of stuff, and eventually people understood it's all voluntary, there's no gun to your head, and we're going to reward you if you choose to do it. Basically, they're giving employees incentives in order to get more data on how they live their lives, in this case, touching on maternity. Blizzard pay for that anonymized aggregate data, and well, they look at various things throughout the process, the percentages of high-risk situations and emergencies, and how long it would take mothers to return to work. Now, being an American company, and I think from a EU and UK perspective, it's worth noting this, this is important. Hospital bills there for maternity can, they can exceed $1 million, as pointed out by GameIndustry.biz author Brendan Sinclair. The Activision-Blizzard benefits head said, I want them to have a healthy baby because it's great for our business experience. And he went on to say, rather than having a baby who's in the neonatal ICU, where she's not able to focus on work. And I mean, yeah, just about any employer pretty much is going to want all of that stuff to go smoothly and healthily. Really, I think it comes down to privacy and consent. In this case, it is opt-in. People do opt into it. They know what data they're giving up. But the thing is, as much as Activision-Blizzard might be good with their data and their use of it, can you guarantee that Ovia will be? That's the problem when multiple companies get involved. Indeed, can you even trust Activision-Blizzard not to use this data in a discriminatory form? It's a challenging thing, because I mean, personally, I'd be sort of happy to have maybe a Fitbit synced to an opt-in company league where I get some benefits, and me and my fellow employees all get a bit more healthy, right? I think that is a decently clear-cut example of where something like this could actually make sense for most of the people involved. But I think in this case with Ovia, well, it's touching on something that's far less clear, a lot more personal, and with a far greater potential of the company abusing that data. And, I mean, it's odd. Things like this can make sense in a spreadsheety, depersonalized manner. The more data you have, the more cost savings you can make within healthcare. But the problem is how badly that can go. And I guess what scares me is that maybe in 20 to 30 years, say in the UK, if our NHS becomes more pressured, maybe it becomes policy that this type of thing is mandatory for citizens. And, being the government, it's not like you can just leave. Like, you could just leave Activision-Blizzard. So I suppose it's a fantastic example here of how you being the product, which is basically most of the things we use, it can be really convenient now, but as a trend, it's generally something that's kind of worrying. Still, we don't nearly have the time to properly cover this topic other than to say it is open for exploitation and overall is quite spooky and pretty uncomfortable. Next up, we've got the supposed PlayStation leak. So this made the rounds, but you know what? It was just a random paste bin. Now, this regurgitated some AMD Navi specs, and it all seemed reasonable, but it's just impossible to verify. The one interesting thing I think from it, though, is the person saying that a PS Plus subscription would exist, basically a higher tier of the existing one that would act a bit like Xbox Game Pass and give you access like private betas and stuff. I don't really know if this is a real leak, but I would imagine that they'll do something like that, just something a little bit more than the current PS Plus offering, because that seems to be the direction the big companies are going in. And then on a similar note, the Xbox marketing head pretty much said that Stadia has great infrastructure, but it doesn't have the games, it doesn't have the content. And right now, that basically is true. And they likely said that, of course, because the Game Pass will work with Project xCloud. Now, here's the thing. Gen 1 Stadia versus Gen 1 xCloud, xCloud is going to have Stadia beat. I don't think people care about being able to launch their games from a YouTube window or joining a lobby with a streamer that much. I think they just want the games and good value, and that's what Game Pass and xCloud will offer. Now, of course, I say Gen 1 because Stadia does have a number of platform benefits, like things that are kind of unique to it. Stadia won't be able to use those initially with its, first launch of content. So I think the Xbox marketing head is right, but all it will take is Jade Raymond's team to make a killer app for Stadia. The next big thing, the next big battle royale. If they can do that, have it be using the Stadia architecture and all of its platform advantages, then Stadia could actually grow and be quite big. I think that really is the thing Google will have to do to make that service a big success. But other than that, I think Game Pass is going to remain a far better option for most people with xCloud, and I don't think Stadia will be able to offer a similarly priced subscription service that brings as much value. Next up, Sakura Sales. This is really crazy. The game sold a staggering 2 million copies in 10 days, and that's truly massive for a FromSoft title, and all of that in spite of the internet exploding on the difficulty topic. Now, Dark Souls 2 crossed the 2.5 million mark a year after release. Dark Souls 3 sold 3 million in just over a month. Of course, it sold 500k copies in Japan, and I think it released like 2 to 4 weeks earlier. Then for Bloodborne, it took half a year to sell 2 million. So we're seeing that Sekiro has performed stunningly for the company. Now, it sold so well that Activision-Blizzard themselves were the people who revealed these numbers. And it's quite funny actually, their press release, because they said this: "It's been an honor to work with From Software to help introduce a brand new franchise to gamers around the world." Yeah, I think they actually just refer to everything as a franchise over at Activision. Will the shadows die thrice? I don't know. Is FromSoft now dead? Who knows? It's quite the situation, but I do wonder if the publishing clout, the Western publishing clout of Activision Blizzard helped them to sell that many games. Because, on the internet, Souls owned the internet, yet Sekiro has managed to sell maybe 2 to 3 times its speed. Being idealistic, this could show Activision Blizzard that games like this actually do sell really well. That plus all the Capcom amazing sales over the last year. But I do have to wonder, does those 2 million come anywhere close to Call of Duty plus microtransactions? Who knows? If Activision Blizzard were to start publishing more games from third-party developers in this manner, then I think that would be a pretty good thing. After all, we have been railing on them for their limited franchise count, so if they were to just publish more games, I think most people would be welcoming of that. Still, I somehow doubt it. I think this is probably more of a one-off, but I suppose from my perspective, it's just always nice to see core games that aren't clogged with BS doing well. That's why I was happy to see Monster Hunter do well, it's why I was happy to see a DMC do so well, and it's why I'm so happy to see that Sekiro did so well. And finally, we have a funny little story about Sony and Bungie. So there's a deal basically between Sony and Bungie with Destiny where the Sony people just have some exclusive content. Now, in this case, it was possible for Xbox and PC users to get a Sony-only gun, a PlayStation-only gun in Destiny. It was quickly, patched up and whatever, but I just want to bring this story up because we have been ragging so hard on the Epic Store lately. That's what the internet's been doing for their exclusivity. But I just want to point out that this is a big game that is having elements of it cut up and just given to Sony. That is another form of really bad exclusivity. In this case, Sony have paid Bungie money so that we as PC and Xbox players don't get content. And it's a practice that has happened in the industry for a long time. It's one of the worst practices out there. I really dislike it, and in this case, just the fact that the gun accidentally gets enabled on Xbox and on PC, it just shows you how absurd the whole thing is. So yeah, that's it for this episode of the Roundup. I really encourage you to go and check out yesterday's Risk of Rain video. I think it's really cool. And if you'd like to see the early access of the next deep dive, which will come out on Monday, well, it is up on Patreon right now. And a massive thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. We've been blown away, and we are currently working on more behind the scenes content for you. So with all that, thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.